I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times with news in Arkansas on Wednesday, October 15th. We're still in the middle of political debate season. We taped yesterday before last night's debate between Tom Cotton and Mark Pryor. I've judged this on social media as a victory for Mark Pryor. He did make a gaffe, and I think overestimating what some people call middle income. He says some people take that up as high as $200,000. Perhaps there's some people who make that who think it's that high. But on other points, he scored time and again on specific differences with Tom Cotton on votes, whether it was on the Farm Bill, whether it was on health care legislation, whether it was on the student loan program. Mark Pryor came prepared and I think exceeded expectations. Of course, this was a debate where both sides think their candidate won. There were likely very few undecided voters who watched this debate in the first place. But it offered some striking things. Mark Pryor was particularly effective, I think, in talking about health care when Tom Cotton made the fairly stunning remark that people were better off with high-risk insurance pools than Obamacare. This is frankly just nuts. It's not true. High-risk insurance pools were very expensive, didn't provide much coverage, and it doesn't do anything about the 211,000 people that now have been added to the private option rolls in Arkansas thanks to the Affordable Care Act. Tom Cotton wants to kill that program, has offered no alternative for those people who would lose their insurance if he were able to succeed at that. So on health care, Mark Pryor, who knew something about high-risk insurance from his own battle with cancer, was on much firmer ground. This morning we had a weird Secretary of State's debate taped by ATN. Mark Martin, incumbent, didn't show up. He claimed to have a schedule conflict. His office has refused to say what that schedule conflict was. He just didn't want to be in this debate. He thinks he can win on his name recognition alone. He may be right. Susan Inman, the Democratic candidate, is a former employee of that office, has been an election coordinator, has supervised elections around the world, happens to be a nice person, which Mark Martin has demonstrated time and again he's not. She talked about the money he's wasted, about his failure to educate the public about the voter ID law, about his failure to prepare for replacement of voting machines in Arkansas. She listed reason after reason why she's clearly the choice for Secretary of State. Unfortunately, voters might not get the chance to get the kind of information that I saw on ATN this morning. I hope more do. ATN this afternoon is doing an Attorney General's debate. This could be lively. Leslie Rutledge, Republican nominee, has been troubled by any number of serious judgment problems on everything from her work at DHS as a lawyer to emails she sent around that had racist overtones and some even raunchier stuff that's been dug up lately of things that she did when she was at DHS. The Republican Party has tried to divert attention from Leslie Rutledge by filing what I believe to be an unfounded lawsuit against Nate Steele because he does work on a contract basis as city attorney for Nashville. The Constitution does prohibit dual office holding. Nate Steele does not hold the office of city attorney. He does legal work, and his father does under contract. They're the only two lawyers in the city of Nashville, which has fewer than 5,000 people and works under a specific state statute that allows contract work for a city attorney for such circumstances just such as these. Money was made news this morning in the race for governor. Mike Ross is leading the money race. He's going to go into the final days of the election campaign having raised more than $2 million more than Asa Hutchinson, the Republican nominee, but I think outside money from various Republican dark money groups will more than make up that gap. You should check our blog if you get a chance and you're interested in education to see some of the reporting Benji Hardy is doing about the Little Rock School District and education in general. Two important stories yesterday. One, a big glitch at the legislature on what they're going to do about teacher pay in the next legislative session. They don't yet have a cost of living increase budgeted for teachers. Surely there'll be one, but there's some talk about readjusting the pay scale to do a better job at starting pay in some of the small districts that don't pay as much as some of the richer districts. But the big news, I think, yesterday was the calling on the carpet of Little Rock School District officials over the poor academic performance of some of its middle schools and high schools. The State Education Board indicates it's impatient about this, wants something done. There's a lot more talk these days about the state taking over the school district because of academic deficiencies. In some ways, I'd like to see this happen because it's easy to talk about Little Rock, but it's awfully hard to deliver results in a school district that's made up so heavily, particularly in the targeted schools, of poor children from from poor homes. They happen to be minorities, but poverty is the real distinguishing characteristic in their schools. Nobody in the country has done a very good job on any kind of systematic basis of lifting the achievement level of poor minorities. That's just a fact. Little Rock undoubtedly could do a better job. It has a barely functioning school board. It has problems that needs to be addressed, but ultimately a big part of your school results are the product of the children that are delivered there, and too many better children have left the district for other districts, for charter schools, for private schools, and it's left a residual population that's very hard to educate. Elsewhere in state government today, Claire Bailey has left after many years as the state's chief technology officer. Sort of abrupt circumstances, don't know the whole story on that yet. This department has sometimes been at the core of disputes about the state's delivery of information services. There's more to be learned on that. Also, I'd point you to KARK, which is doing a series of stories. This final one will be at 10 p.m. tonight on interviews it was given by Aaron Lewis, the man accused of murdering real estate agent Bev Carter. He claims his innocence, but it's a weird, strange interview in which he says, well, she went with him willingly, it wasn't an abduction, and perhaps if she died, it was an accident. A strange thing for somebody in a jail to do, but this is a guy who had a pretty troubled past and a bad record. So you'll want to take everything he says with a grain of salt. I think we all should be glad he's behind bars. That's the news today. I'll be back probably with more politics tomorrow. I'm Max Brantley.